When Tim Burton's Batman was released on June 23, 1989, it was one of the biggest movies the world had ever seen. It wasn't the first blockbuster film Hollywood had ever released, but it came with much hype, went on to make over $400 million, making it the fifth most successful motion picture up to that point, and was generally well received by audiences and critics. In the 30 years that have passed since the film's release, there have been several sequels and reboots of Hollywood's Batman. Some still consider Tim Burton's version as the best Batman. The film is not only my favorite version of Batman, but one of my all-time favorite movies. Why? Because Tim Burton created this strange cinematic limbo where the movie at the same time is an absurd fever dream of a film, but also realistic in ways I haven't seen since. Many were skeptical about the decision to turn Michael Keaton into Bruce Wayne. At that point, Keaton was mostly known for comedies like Beetlejuice and Mr. Mom. And Keaton was also 5'9" and not particularly buff. The film came about in the wake of the publication of critically acclaimed new takes on Batman during the mid to late 80s, most notably Alan Moore's The Killing Joke and Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns in Year One, all of which depicted darker and more adult-oriented versions of the Batman. Burton himself wanted to show the world a grittier Batman, one befitting of the Dark Knight nickname, and make a comic book film that people could take seriously. I referred earlier to the film as an absurd fever dream because the Gotham City Burton created is like a never-ending dark alley. Gothy, creepy, and urban. The film seemingly takes place in contemporary 1989 reality, but with the exceptions of Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale, many of the characters in the film dress like they're from the 1940s. Villains use Tommy guns, newspaper photographers use flashbulbs, and gangsters dress like Al Capone. But television is still a thing, and Bruce Wayne has access to computers and other high-tech equipment. We're never given a rationale for the depiction of this strange reality, but to quote a 2014 article in Esquire magazine on the film's 25th anniversary, this is a fully realized universe. It's almost as if a seedy 1947 existed inside a steampunk 1989. The murder and violence seem cartoonish, but also hellacious. And then there's Jack Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker. We're asked to believe that this character not only survives being dropped in a vat of chemicals, but survives and transforms from one kind of evil into another kind of evil. Nicholson gives an energetic, creepy, delirious performance and looks absolutely insane throughout the entire movie. But he also manages to be hilarious.
This town needs an enema.
He murders for fun and looks extremely stylish while doing it. But besides the visuals Nicholson gives us, the character he portrays is believable. In the film, the Joker transforms from a gangster with narcissistic personality disorder to a calculating, deliberate psycho driven by fame, vanity, and excess. Some critics argue that Nicholson was just playing an exaggerated version of himself, but his performance is considered by many as iconic.
Wait till they get a load of me.
I can't say for certain if Nicholson was doing cocaine while shooting the film, but his character sure seems like the comic book embodiment of Scarface. It's hard imagining any other actor other than Nicholson giving the same caliber of performance. Then there's Michael Keaton's performance as Bruce Wayne. With the exception of the death of his parents, we aren't given much of an origin story, and his only motivation seems to be a vague desire to be the good guy and stop the bad guys. We don't see how he trains to be proficient in the martial arts. We don't see how he builds his vehicles and gadgets. We don't see how he transforms his mansion into the Batcave. We don't even see him work his day job. Burton doesn't bother dragging us along for all this backstory. But it doesn't really matter. Instead of wasting time watching Keaton become Batman, he just is.
What are you? I'm Batman.
And in my personal opinion, when I see Keaton's performance, I believe it. He looks like a millionaire, but his performance is subtle enough that he expresses a darkness and mysteriousness that makes you believe he might be a masked vigilante. To quote Slaughterhouse magazine back in '89, this Batman, you could believe, was insane.
Wow. Made mistakes. Then he had us.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
The action is believable as well. Instead of giving us some meathead determined to kick everyone's ass, with their bare fists at breakneck speed, this Batman knows when to bust out the gadgets to help win the fight or run away.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
It's no secret that the financial and critical success of the film was the genesis for the modern-day superhero movie. But the film is a combination of contradictions that work in miraculous ways. Despite the large budget and shameless effort by Warner Brothers to squeeze as much money as humanly possible from the film, the studio allowed a director to make the darkest version of this film possible and solidified Burton's status as the Hollywood goth director. An actor nobody believed should be Batman is still considered by some to be the quintessential Batman. And overall, the film depicts a world that only makes sense in a comic book, yet comes to life in a way that made many, or at least me, believe that this is what it would look like if it happened in real life.